He moved his wife, son, and 2 daughters to Salem, Oregon, where he retired. To all who knew him, he was to be referred to as the Colonel. Even as grandchildren, he insisted we call him Colonel Granddad. This grandiose title was a bit of a stretch to my sister and I, so he affectionately became Colonel Daddy. Our Colonel Daddy was a strict and professional man, even in his life outside of the military. His professional military behavior was demonstrated in his active support for the youth, always encouraging them to pursue a higher education, and the Civil War era cannon he's furtively stored in his barn. How he got this cannon into his possession, no one really knows, but every farmer in a 5-mile radius was reminded of his residence, but only on special occasions, including his 80th birthday. Despite the rigid atmosphere, however, I never doubted that I had a grandfather who loved me. Because of his stern behavior, some might think otherwise, but the love in his eyes for both his family and his country was a love undoubtable. My grandfather came from a generation who lived out these values to the fullest. Unity, service, shared sacrifice, courage, and spirit. In Tom Brokaw's book, he appropriately termed this generation the greatest generation. This generation built the ultimate definition of American patriotism. Although the war ended 70 years ago, its effects have been lasting. The spirit of 1945 still lives within the American people, ready to mobilize whenever the need arises. Young men and women still enlist in the armed forces even though the country is momentarily at peace. Women continue to work in the numerous jobs not available to them prior to the Second World War. The home front modeled a workforce ethic seemingly infeasible at the time. The attitude in which they served was instrumental in winning the war. All gave some during the war, and many gave all. There is not a doubt in my mind when I attest that each man and woman from the greatest generation is a true, unmistakable hero. Joseph Campbell defined a hero as someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than themselves. The World War II generation gave the ultimate representation of heroism, giving their lives to something much, much bigger than themselves. With the inspiration of a military family and an entire generation, it is my dream to attend university before becoming an officer in the United States Marine Corps. Through training both on my own, Through training both on my own and weekly at the Marines recruiting office, I have set out to acquire the NROTC scholarship. As an officer, I will lead from the front while living out the values of honor, courage, and commitment to their utmost capacity. To be Semper Fi to my family, my friends, and my country is an honor, and I aspire to live it out now as a civilian and in the future as a United States Marine. Thank you.